Hey, let's try this again. So, if you were on here earlier and you catch the first time that we tried this, I'm sorry. I'm a little embarrassed. I tend to be one track mind. I can't, if something is happening, I get distracted very easily. And sixth graders knocking on my door and asking me questions, it was beyond distracting, and I just wasn't going to be able to focus anymore. And they were going to be there for another 45 minutes. So we scrapped that idea and said, let's just do it tonight. So thank you to those of you who were able to stick around and could come back on at this time so that we could chat about this week and everything that's going on. I already see that we have more people on here today, so at this time, so that's awesome. So I'm glad that you guys could hop on live. You can feel free to start asking questions in the comments. There's a couple things that we're going to go over. We're going to dive into some of the things that were in today's training and the email that you received today so that we can get a little bit more in depth, especially since some of the questions that I've already gotten go along with that consistency and accountability thing. So, first of all, thank you all so much for those of you who have gone through the 3 days. Hopefully you got some new insight into training out of the last 3 days, and you have some idea of what paces you're supposed to run, so that will help you start to progress in your training. And hopefully if you are training for a fall race, or if you have some summer races planned, that you can start seeing some changes in your time, because I know a lot of my runners, and after pulling my current programs and some of the runners in here, that they were struggling with what pace to run and how to structure those workouts and those sorts of things. So we are going to cover that, but I hopefully that gave you some insight into how to do that. And I already see Stephanie has a question that I'm going to talk about. How often should I do speed work and run hills? Woo! And then apparently how do I something, but it didn't pop up. Let me refresh my page in here. But anyway, for those of you who are brand new to this group, because I know there are a lot of you, we have added a bunch of people to this group, which is so awesome. For those of you who, how fast should I run those hills? Perfect. Thanks, Steph. My name is Kristen Van Horn. I am a mom of two. I am a physical education teacher by day, and then I do run coaching on the side by night. I'm also a strength and conditioning specialist, so a lot of my coaching goes along with that strength and conditioning piece, teaching my runners how to incorporate that strength and conditioning to make them faster, as well as implementing good, sound training strategies to progress in their training and set those new PRs and just get faster overall. I really like to focus on the faster aspect because I think that's something that most runners are looking for. They're looking to get better and they're looking to get faster. And so I focus a lot on that. And by teaching them good principles about training, when to incorporate certain things and how to add in certain things into their running. So awesome. So let's dive right into this. Let me pull up my notes again. So how do you stay motivated to achieve your goals? I think that is probably one of the biggest questions I get all the time, is that they're lacking in motivation. I know a couple months ago, a lot of my runners were at a point in their training where, and I know Kristen's on here, and really this comes from her, but I heard the same thing from like 3 other runners at the exact same time. I ran a marathon in the fall and it was great. I kind of like struggled through an injury, or I had really good training, and then after that I had no idea what to do and I just fell off the wagon and haven't been able to get back on. I've had a lot of people say that, and there's 2 things that you absolutely have to have in order to continue to stay motivated in that training. And one thing is consistency. The other one is having some accountability. Without those 2 things, it is really hard to see any progress in your training. You absolutely have to have those things. So yes, you can have easy runs. Yes, you can be doing those tempo runs, but if you don't have the consistency and you don't have any accountability, it's going to be really hard for you to see any progress in your training. So let's start with consistency, and this is the big one. An awesome coach is what you need. Yeah, Kristen's learned. She's learned that that's what she needed, and now her training is going awesome. And she just messaged me earlier. She's one of my VIP runners. We've been working, I think, about a month now together. And she just messaged me and said that she had an awesome run today. So that I love hearing that from my runners. So when it comes to that consistency, absolutely, you have to have some kind of plan. You absolutely have to have some kind of plan. And I'm going to pick on my husband a little bit. I know he can probably hear me in the other room, but I know he's also in this group, which he's like, I know you have that call today or that video that you're doing. Like, yeah, I know. So I'm going to pick on him a little bit because he's a runner. He ran all through high school and college. He's the one who really got me interested in running. And I don't think I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for him. I've loved running, but I think he's the one who kind of pushed me over the edge and really got me interested in sticking with it for for a long time. But he has been battling injuries for, I want to say, 10 years now. I can honestly say that I remember going on a run with them before our wedding. So Dean Karnazes, if you all remember when he did like the 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days, yeah, we ran with him. And he came to St. Louis where he started it all. He started in my hometown in St. Charles, and did his first marathon there. And then he is older, so he's going to love that you said that, Stephanie. But Dean Karnazes, he decided to run from where his last marathon was. I want to say it was in like New York or Boston or something like that. He might have finished at the Boston finish line. I don't remember, but I know it was on the East Coast, and he decided he was going to run across the U.S. on his way back to California where he lives. And so he stopped in St. Charles where he did his first 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days thing. And we met up with him and got to run just the last little stretch of that. He didn't end up making it across, but that was the place where he stopped. And that was the last stretch of his run. And we ran with him. And then we decided, hey, let's just go ahead and go from where we were and run back home. And so we did. And ever since then, he's been battling injuries on and off. And the one thing I tell him all the time is that he needs to be more consistent. He doesn't have a plan. He just kind of goes out and tries to get back into it, and he just struggles with it. And a lot of it is just because he'll run one day, 1 week, and then he'll skip a week. And then he'll run 2 days 1 week, and then he'll skip a week. And then he'll skip another week. Or, there's just no consistency in it. So having that plan is really, really, really important. I'm trying not to like shake my bed. My camera's moving a lot, but I talk with my hands a lot. And so having that plan is really, really important. Having something to follow and something that you know what to do every single day is going to make a huge difference in your running. I know Stephanie said earlier that she has a Runner's World guide, which is absolutely perfect. I used Hal Higdon for a really, really long time. And then I got to the point where I was able to train myself. And so I've been training myself for several years now that I've been able to write my own training plans and things like that. Like even before I got certified as a running coach. And so I've been writing my own training plans, I want to say since I ran Chicago. So it's been about 7 years I've been writing my own training plans. And of course I'm looking up stuff. I'll look up like, Ryan Hall's training plan, and I'll go off like Hal Higdon. He's always been my go-to. I have tons of books. I don't have any of them over here, but I have tons of books. Brooks Hansen method is, or Hansen Brooks method. I don't remember what it is, but I'm currently reading their books. I've read Run Like a Champion. I've read Unbreakable Runner. What other books have I read? I do a lot of professional development because I love reading about running because it's my passion. But I take a lot of those things that I learned from them and then I put them into a training plan for myself and kind of test it out and see what works and what doesn't and that sort of thing. And so I've done that for about 7 years now. I've just taken what I've learned over that time and used it to train myself and find out what works. And then I've gotten to that point probably in the past couple months where I had my best race ever back in February. I ran a 3 mile, not a 5K. I ran a 3 miler. I ran my fastest mile ever, a 5:59, which I've never seen ever in my life. My PR was at like a 6:02 when I was a sophomore in high school, and I hadn't run it since. So that was, I'm not going to give my age away. You all think that I'm like 24, but I'm not. Yeah, I ran that a long time ago. And so when I had that race, and then I I probably would have PR'd my 5K had it been a 5K. So I had this really awesome race. And then the next month I had a terrible race. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Like I just couldn't push through some of those doubts that were in my head. And that just, it got me so unmotivated to do anything that I realized I needed something. And that's where that accountability factor came in, because I was so used to training myself that I struggled with the accountability aspect of it. I would have my training plans all lined up. I have a plan, but at the same time, I was doing the absolute bare minimum. I just struggled with getting out the door. I made excuses to not do something, like, oh, it's just a 3-mile run. If I don't do it, it's no big deal. I'm going to spend the extra hour in my bed. And that wasn't helping. And that's probably one of the reasons why I had such a horrible race, just because I had nothing keeping me accountable. I had the plan, but at the same time, just because I had the plan, that doesn't mean that I was actually getting out the door. So both of those things have to go hand to hand. You have to have some kind of consistency in your training, but you also need that accountability factor, because if you're someone like me who's going to make the excuse because there's no one who is telling you exactly what you need to do and expecting you to do something, then you definitely need that accountability factor. And sometimes that comes with like a running partner. So I run at 4 a.m. No one wants to come run with me. On the weekends, I run at like 6 a.m. No one wants to run with me on the weekends. So for that, I cannot keep myself accountable. I understand. I'm getting to that point now. No one wants to run with me really early in the morning. A lot of people are like, nope, I'm going to sleep in a little bit longer. But that's just not me. I like to get my day started, because if I wait past after I wake up, it just isn't going to happen. And so I don't have a running partner. And while my spouse is great, he doesn't want to wake up with me in the morning to run with me. And he really could care less if I actually get my run in, because he wants to get his run in, that sort of thing. He's not an early morning runner, so that doesn't work. So I ended up hiring a running coach, and that has been the game changer in my training. I've seen a lot of progress. I haven't missed a workout since I started working with her back mid-March, end of March, just around that time. I haven't missed a workout since then. There's times where I've done the bare minimum just because I was running out of time, because she has me doing a lot higher mileage than what I had been doing. But I'm really okay with that, because the more that I have read in the past month about things, I know that I need to increase my mileage. And so this next week, we're bumping up my mileage quite a bit, as we're adding an extra training day. So as you progress in your running, sometimes you need to start doing things differently. But having that accountability factor, whether it's your spouse telling you like, yeah, you need to go run. I know my husband will tell me a lot, like if I didn't run in the morning and then I'm like in a really pissy mood, he's like, just go run, just get out the door. So I get it. So having somebody to keep you accountable, running with a group or running with a training partner, always great things to keep you accountable. But having a coach has been the game changer for me. Just having someone who I can bounce ideas off of. Luckily, I have the background where I kind of understand and know how to do things, and I have like suggested things to her. And I know even Kristen did that today to me. She's like, I have a race next weekend. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, oh, I forgot you have a race next weekend. Let's fix this and this and this. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need somebody. Hey, Caitlin. Sometimes you need that accountability factor, or someone to bounce ideas off of. So sometimes they remember you have races. Sometimes they don't. My husband said, did you miss your run today? Yes, I get that a lot. Did you miss your run today? Go run. But it's nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Even if you have the experience and have the background, having someone else to help keep you accountable and just be like, hey, what do you suggest I do with this? Because I know what I would want to do, but if you think I should do something different, then let's do something different. For example, like I've been feeling really, really sore lately. Not sore, but just my legs have been dead just because I haven't been consistent in my strength training because I've been busy with coaching track. So it's been hard for me to get my strength training in. We bumped up mileage a lot. My runs are getting harder. And so my legs have just felt really dead. And so I know last weekend I was having a really tough time keeping my pace. And she suggested, well, start your workout, get a mile in, and then if you still feel bad, you can just make it an easy run, and we'll push we'll push it back a day. We'll push your tempo run back a day. And luckily I felt great, and so I was able to get my tempo run in. But it's nice to have somebody to bounce those ideas off of and keep you accountable. I hate getting up at 4 a.m. to run. I'm excited for summer so I can get up at a normal time and work out. Lindsay, isn't it sad? Like when we're done next Wednesday, I'm looking forward to not getting up at 4 a.m., but I'm planning on getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm excited about that. So like today where it's a rest day for me, I got up at 5. I'm like, yay, I get to sleep in an hour. It's really sad. And the only reason I'm getting up at 5 a.m. in the summer is because my husband's teaching summer school and I want to get showered before he leaves for the day. So if that means getting up at 5 a.m. happens, that's gonna happen. So anyway, so hopefully you got those two things. Absolutely consistency, accountability. I guess you're not going to run with me, huh, Lindsay? We're not going to meet out at work. But consistency and accountability are like the really big things that you absolutely need to have in your training, regardless of if you know the structure, if you know when you need easy runs, if you know what paces you need to run. You have to be consistent with it, and you need somebody to keep you accountable for that training. You don't need it, but at the same time, if you are like me and you make excuses, you need somebody to keep you accountable and tell you, hey, you need to get out there and run. Maybe it's your spouse telling you, like Kelly said, did you miss your run today? Yep, I get it. So anyway, I know we've had a couple of questions that have been messaged to me or emailed to me, and some other people have come up with questions. So one of the big ones that I've had a lot of questions on is, what's an example? When do I need to schedule these things in? So I know we've talked about easy runs. We've talked about tempo runs. When are the times to do these things? So the big thing that you need to know, there are 3 main things that you need in your training plan. One of them, you absolutely need to have a long run, regardless of what you're training for, whether it's a 5K like me, a half marathon, or a marathon. Obviously, the longer your race is, the longer your run is, and the more important those long runs are. But even for me, who is a 5K runner, I'm running long runs 8 to 10 miles. So a lot of that has to do with your mileage base and how many miles per week you're running and how advanced you are in your training. Since I'm more of an advanced runner, I need higher mileage in my training in order for me to see progress in my training. So you do need a long run. Typically, that should be at an easy pace. So the same as what you do your easy runs in, that you should have found out on Tuesday. So the same pace that you do your easy runs in, it should be an easy pace. You should be able to keep a conversation. So I got this from, oh my gosh, Jenny Hatfield? Does that sound right? It was a podcast, and I listened to it a long time ago. But it's what I use with my track kids because, kids don't understand, like, you need to be able to hold a conversation. They just don't understand that. So we have a color system. It's yellow, orange, or red. Yellow means you can hold a conversation with someone. You can run at a pace where you're just talking back and forth and you're not struggling at all. It's a nice, comfortable pace. You don't feel like you're winded. You can hold it for a long period of time. That's the pace that you should be doing your easy runs in. So if you think about, if you don't have a watch that gives you your pace, or you don't want to look at it all the time, that sort of thing, easy pace means you can hold a conversation. You need to text me to keep me motivated. I love your workouts and love the way I feel after. Oh, Linz, thanks. I love hearing that. So yeah, yellow, easy pace. Then the next pace we have are those orange days. Orange days are more of a faster pace. So this would be considered like your tempo pace, or even some of your speed workouts. So this is a pace where you cannot hold a conversation easily. You can still talk, but you're going to say 3 words and then have to take a breath and have to stop. You can't, like, the words aren't flying back and forth with you and a running partner. So it's a much harder pace, but it's not like balls to the wall, you're all in, all out, that sort of thing. So we have yellow is easy, orange is a little bit harder. You can't hold a conversation, but you can still like chat a little bit throughout, but it's a little bit harder where you can't hold like an easy conversation. And then red is race pace, do or die, you're all out. And that's helped my track kids, middle schoolers. For those of you who actually saw the video earlier, you know how crazy they are. They need that system because they don't understand that. They don't understand, like, what do you mean I have to go all out? What do you mean that I need to be able to chat? They don't get that. They don't understand how to pace, and so you have to give them those color codes to really understand how they're supposed to pace their training. So easy, long runs should be at that yellow pace, that easy pace where you could hold a conversation for a long period of time. Yes, that means that you're going to be on your feet a little bit longer than you would on your race. That's okay. Maybe not, obviously I'm a 5K runner. I run 3 miles and I'm running 10 miles for training. So obviously I'm going to be on my feet a lot longer. For marathons, you need to run up to at least 3 miles. Or 3 miles, 3 hours. Don't train for a marathon and only run 3 miles. That would be bad. 3 hours. So that easy pace is going to look different than your actual race pace. You don't need to be running race pace on your long runs. That's not the point of it. The point is to get those to get that mileage in so that you have that endurance for that race pace. So long runs, speed workouts, tempo runs are absolutely necessary. Putting in some interval training in there. I happen to love 400s. I'm terrible at them, but I love them. I love 800s. I usually put in some 1,000-meter repeats that I love to hate. I hate them. They're just mentally tough for me, but they make me tougher overall. They make me faster, and they definitely make me work up here because it's just a mental game for me at those 1,000-meter repeats. And I have a love-hate relationship with 1 mile repeats too. I like them a little bit more now. I'm going to be happy when I can actually do them on my trails and not around the block a billion times, because for me, that's mentally tough. I would rather have a longer distance than have to run the goofy route that I have to run around my house at 4 a.m. But once I get to the summer months next week, I will have a better route, and I'll be happier to run the mile repeats. So those are some examples of those speed workouts. Tempo runs. I think if you didn't see it yesterday in the thread for the comments, for your tempo runs, 1 mile warm up, and then you're going to run 3 to 5 for you advanced runners, maybe up to 7 miles. I'm trying to think of what this is for my Australian people, because you're in kilometers. 7 miles would be 6K is 10. No, 6K, 7K is 4. 10K 6, so 10, 11, 12K, and then another mile cool down, and to do your tempo. So that middle part is your tempo. That's where you want to be at your half marathon goal pace. So depending on what that is, if you're planning on running a 1:45 for a half marathon, you're running 8-minute miles in your tempo run. And I know most of you are probably half marathoners, but even for you marathoners, you can do it at half marathon pace, goal half marathon pace, but you could also do it at your marathon pace, so you understand the feel of that. It would be pretty impossible for me to do a tempo run at my 5K pace, since that's my goal right now, is to PR in the 5K. So I either do them at my threshold pace or I do them at my goal half marathon pace, which are very, very close to each other. So the difference isn't too much. Usually my threshold pace is at 6:54, and that's usually what my coach wants me running at. So long runs, speed workouts, so that's tempo, intervals, and you can even go up to like 2 by 3 mile. I like to call them tempo intervals because they're a little bit longer and they have you at that threshold pace. And then those easy recovery runs. Recovery is going to be key. I know that we focus on that on day one because typically we think we need to go faster. And I know there was somebody in here, I don't know if you're watching live or not, that said, well, I usually just run my runs as fast as I can. There's no difference really between my easy days and my hard days. They're pretty much all the same. And if you're not seeing progress, that's usually the problem because you're not giving your body that recovery. And this is how I explain it to my students. So when you are training, and I'm getting into a little bit of physiology in here, when you are running, whether it's running or strength training or anything like that, you're physically breaking down your muscles. Like your muscles are full of these little muscle fibers, and when you exercise, you're actually making little itty bitty tears in those muscles. And if you continue to do the same thing over and over and over and over without that recovery, those tears are never going to heal and make you stronger. So if you are running all out every single day, you are never getting that recovery. Yay! It's so good to see you, Nicola. That's awesome. I'm glad that you got home. I was wondering, you were one that I was wondering about because I thought this time might be better for you. Since you're 15 hours ahead of me, it's like Saturday for you, or almost. It's not even Friday for me yet. So making sure that you're giving your body that recovery. And it doesn't mean that you have to take the day off. If you are like me and you need running for your mental health, make it an easy run. Use that easy pace. And I know for some of you that is super duper hard for you because some of you are Friday, okay. Some of you are are running like in the 11, 12, 13-minute miles for your easy pace, and that seems super slow for you. And I get that. I totally do. But you have to have that recovery. It's going to be hard for you to do anything with your training if you don't have that recovery. So you don't have to take the day off. In fact, I suggest maybe 1 to 2 days a week off of your training. So you're running 5 or 6 days a week and 1 day off. But those days that you are running, those easy runs, you are running super easy, and it's all about just getting those miles in. So they are totally recovery runs. All right. So those 3 things you need: recovery runs, speed workouts, so that's tempos and interval training, and then long runs. And your speed workouts and long runs should never, ever, ever be back to back. And I know some of you who are in my my current Elite Running Academy, you're like, but you have us doing a run bias workout and then our speed workout the other day. Absolutely, I do have you doing that. But your run bias workout is high intensity, low volume. So it's not technically breaking down your muscles as much. So don't worry, I got you covered. Okay, so you should be fine because we are not doing anything of high volume. And we can talk about that more in the Elite Running Academy if you're in it and you have questions about that. But never have your speed workouts or long run days back to back. You can probably do a tempo and a long run back to back, but I don't suggest it. I suggest you having a recovery day in between those days. You can add cross training in if you don't want to add, if you only want to do 4 days of running per week, add a cross training in there after a speed workout or a long run. But I always have a rest day after a long run because your body just needs that recovery. So spending some time doing some foam rolling. I use I don't have it in here. The Deep Blue Rub by doTERRA. I love that stuff. That has been really great for when my legs feel really dead. Those sorts of things. But all those things are really good for that structured plan. So within a week, I usually have an interval day. So I'm doing like repeats one day, then an easy run, and then a tempo run, and then an easy run, and then a long run, and then a day off. So that's typically what I'm doing. Do you do yoga? I like yoga. I don't love it. Yes, Deep Blue and Rest. Yes, it makes a huge difference. I put some on this weekend, so I have like the oil, and then I just got my lotion in the mail today because I didn't have the Deep Blue Rub. But I had the oil, and I put it in some of my, I know I'm not supposed to, I don't think I'm supposed to do this, but and maybe Brandy's on here and she can help me with this. But I put it in with some of my lotion after I got out of the shower, and I put way too many drops on, and my legs were like tingling like so bad. Like, learned my lesson. Too much Deep Blue is a bad thing. But anyway, Nicola, I do yoga. My goal for April was to wake up every Monday morning and do yoga, and guess what? That didn't happen. So the one day that I actually woke up early, I ended up working instead of doing yoga. So yes, my goal this summer is to actually wake up at 5 every day, and on my day off to actually do yoga, because sorry, I'm shaking again. That is the day after my long run. So I do highly suggest yoga, especially if you're like me and you are bad at stretching, because I don't like stretching. So yeah, that yoga is awesome and I love it and highly suggest it, but I'm not very good about doing it. So, but yeah, I do suggest that. Yes, and water dries it in, so don't put it on when you're super sweaty. Oh, thank you. I will remember that. I probably won't put it on until after I'm like dried off and showered. All right, other questions. I know we had a few talk about hill running, so I'll do that next. And then a few people asked about nutrition, and I'll talk about that next. So hill running, if you know that your race is hilly, and I know there's lots of people in St. Louis who are on here and in this group, and we always talk about like, I mean, I don't feel like St. Louis is super hilly, but at the same time, like if you run Go St. Louis, I found a great free site called Do Yoga With Me, free yoga video and some for runner. Oh, nice. I like Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. She's awesome. She's just hilarious. So she's very down to earth and just kind of like very soothing and relaxing. I really like her a lot. But anyway, hills. So if you know your race is going to be hilly, for example, Go St. Louis has a lot of rolling hills. You don't think about St. Louis being hilly, and it's not necessarily, but there are lots of like rolling hills. You don't really ever get a break. I'm trying to think of some other hills galore downtown. You're right. It's crazy downtown. I don't know why it's like that. I don't feel like it is, but compared to Chicago, because I know, Kristen, you've run Chicago too, and you're doing Chicago again this summer, like hills in St. Louis are way different than hills in Chicago, which are just bridges. Or if you're like in Florida, I know there's lots of bridges in Florida. It's pretty flat, but if you have a route with a lot of bridges on it, I was kind of surprised in New York when Stephanie and I were in there in March. Central Park is actually pretty hilly. But yeah, if you know that your race has a lot of hills, if you look at that elevation, I'm terrible at looking at elevation because I just want to know if there's hills or not. It's not going to matter to me. But if you know that there's lots of hills on it, you have to practice hills. And that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do hill repeats. And I've done hill repeats with my runners in the past, and I think it helps to a certain point. But you just have to practice on hills. So doing some hill repeats are great. One of the things that I've started doing is after my easy runs, I'll find a good hill that takes me 20 to 30 seconds to get up, and I will sprint up it. It doesn't, and this is, Stephanie, this answers your question. It doesn't have to be at a certain pace. It just has to be fast. So sprint up the hill, jog back down. Sprint up, jog down. And you can rest like 1 to 2 minutes in between if you want. But 10 times, and that you can do that after an easy run. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a dedicated run to that. I know Elite Running Academy, we do have one day that's dedicated to hill training just to get you used to that. But I think a lot of my VIPs now, after their easy runs, they have a choice. They can either do some hill repeats or they can do some stride. So that's their choice, and that's the way that they can get their hill training in. But the other way, and I think this is the really important thing to do, is if you know that there's hills in your race, you have to be training on hills. So you need to find a course or some kind of loop or wherever you do your run that has some hills on it, so you get used to running hills on a regular basis. So where I used to live before we moved to our new house, there's a ton of hills, and I don't think Abe's on here right now, but he can attest for this because he lives out where I used to live. There's a ton of hills out where I used to live, and so I was training on hills daily. I had hills galore, and they were not like little hills, they were good size hills, and I would do some repeats on them, but just training them every day got me ready for hills. Now where I live, I run mostly on trails, and I have one hill. That's it. That's all I got. One measly hill that I run up, and it's really affected my running. I'm not as good on hills as I used to be. So finding ways to train on those hills. And now I have to admit, and I see Mallory, you're on here because you live by me too. I do live by hills. I just choose not to run on them because I have trails that are nice and flat by me. But if I go the other way out my door, there's plenty of hills that I just never train on. Now, when it flooded, when my trails flooded last week, I absolutely could have ran on the other hills, but I didn't because I'm dumb. But yeah, I do believe that if you know, if you know that you are going to be racing on hills, you got to practice the hills. So hopefully that helps. But if you're doing hill repeats, fast. Just go up them fast. There's no certain pace you have to be at. Just go up them fast. Something that is that orange to red zone. If you were on here earlier and I talked about that, orange to red zone. Something that is difficult for you, you couldn't keep for a long time, and it's faster than your easy pace. So hopefully that helps. I know one person asked me about recovery after races, especially like an ultra. She did something similar to a Ragnar relay, which I know for me, you avoid that direction too, right? I hate Birdie Hills. Like I won't run on it. I learned a couple of years ago that I was like, I got trails right there. I'm not going to do it. So when it comes to recovery after races, especially if you have a half marathon or marathon, or if you're doing a Ragnar, I'm doing a trail relay in a couple weeks here. And my mileage is going to top at 15, which is it's a lot for me. I don't typically run more than 13, but it's broken up. So I don't think it'll be as bad. But that recovery is going to be really important because your legs are going to be affected by that. So especially for like a relay race where you're doing a lot of distance in one day, a lot of fueling and hydration are going to be key, especially making sure that you're staying hydrated, especially if the weather is hot. But even if it's not, bad weather or hot weather or humid weather. So making sure that you're staying hydrated, getting in some electrolytes after every single leg of that. During a marathon or a half marathon, making sure that you're staying hydrated. You don't necessarily need to have fuel, as in you don't necessarily need to have goo or anything like that. I don't take any of that. I also haven't run a marathon in a long time, but I don't use those in my half marathons. I stick with water or sports drink or Gatorade, whichever one is on the race course. If it's a training run, I usually take Noon just because that's what I like and it tastes better to me. But proper fueling and hydration are going to be key to recovery. Other things, foam rolling, making sure that you're stretching, warming up is really important, even on the longer runs. You don't necessarily have to do any running ahead of time on a long run if you're doing a marathon or half marathon, but making sure you're getting in some dynamic stretches. So you're stretching through movements, which that's something that I give my runners to do usually before their speed workouts. They get some dynamic workouts to do, or dynamic stretches to do before their runs, their harder runs. Making sure that you're running adequate mileage up to race day. Oh, there's something else that I didn't put in my notes and I just thought of. That's going to drive me crazy. Oh, what we were just talking about, Deep Blue. So Deep Blue by doTERRA is like icy hot. I kind of like it better. I don't necessarily like the smell any better, but it makes your legs feel good. Or BioFreeze. It's kind of like BioFreeze. It's kind of that icy feeling on there. So it's going to help promote like blood flow to that area to help increase circulation and those sorts of things and recover faster. So those are all good things that you can do to help you recover faster after a run, but especially after those long runs, half marathons, you need some time off. One of my runners, for example, she just ran her first marathon it was end of April. So about 2.5 weeks ago. And she just emailed me the other day and was complaining about just how awful she's felt. Her legs just feel dead. She just feels tight all over. You just ran a marathon. You have to take some time to recover. Typically, it's 1 day per mile you run. So if you run a marathon, you need 26 days of recovery before you're like ready to go again. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, recovery is going to be tough. You're going to be sore. Take it easy. It's okay to take time off. It doesn't mean that you don't have to run. It just means you need to take it easy for a little bit. I get really bad headaches after long runs. Do you think it's a lack of hydration? I drink as I run, but it happens a lot. Christy, do you just drink water or do you drink sports drink? Do you drink as you run? So that might be the difference on it. I would think that maybe it could be hydration. It also might just be, and I know you're doing my program now, it might be upper body strength, and some of those muscles pulling on your head. I always get really bad neck aches. My neck muscles are really weak. I don't do enough pull-ups. I drink water and have tried Noon now. I would suggest in my half marathon fueling strategy is typically every 20 to 30 minutes you're drinking 6 to 8 ounces of fluid. And I like to use Noon on my training runs and then Gatorade during a race. And it's usually every other water stop that I'm stopping and getting water or Gatorade. Usually Gatorade after the first hour. But that could be an issue. I know for me, if I have a long run, especially as we get into warmer summer months, after a long run, if I don't drink or don't have enough electrolyte replacement from a sports drink, I get really bad stomach aches and spend the rest of my day pretty uncomfortable. So it definitely could be a hydration issue. That's usually when I get headaches too. It might depend on I think you run in the afternoon. I was going to say it might depend on when you're running. If you typically have coffee at a certain time of day and then you are running your long run in the morning without coffee, that could affect it too. But I don't suggest doing coffee before a run. A lot of my runners have had a lot of stomach issues and things with that too. This happens to me too sometimes, Christy. My hydration is usually off and there's a ton of tension in my upper back and neck. So good. We're on the right track. So yeah, those are things that you can think about. Adding some pull-ups or like inverted rows to your training. I think hydration is probably it though. So just making sure that every 20 to 30 minutes you're drinking 6 to 8 ounces of something, including a sports drink. Especially runs over an hour. You definitely need something to keep you hydrated. I think that's pretty much the last thing I got was about nutrition, how to fuel properly. So I kind of just talked about my fueling strategy for half marathons. Mine's typically every other water stop, which is about 3 miles for me. It depends on the race, so you have to look ahead of time if you're doing a half marathon or full marathon when the water stops are. I know the last one I did, oh gosh, back in October. Oh, that's a good idea. Electrolyte pills. I've never tried that. So yeah, if that works for you, Kristen, I think that's good. I typically like sports drink. Gatorade or Noon is usually what I like. But for like a half marathon fueling, making sure that you're drinking every 20 to 30 minutes. You don't necessarily need to take anything unless you're planning on being out on the course for a long time. As far as fueling for like a marathon, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. You don't necessarily need a lot, but you need something. Typically, I want to say like 100 to 200 calories every 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. And that's really going to depend on what works for you. So taking a lot of time to practice that during your training is really, really important. Like I said, I haven't run a marathon in a long time, but I'm training a lot of marathoners. So figuring that out and using that. Long runs are great ways to use that, but the other one that is really, really great to do it on are your tempo runs, where you're actually running at that pace. So those are things to think about with practicing your fueling for those races. As far as general nutrition goes, most of you who have been in this group know that I practice carb cycling and intermittent fasting. That's what my group programs focus on. A lot of my VIP runners ask for that sort of thing too, and we start incorporating that. That works with their training plan. But with that, whole foods are key. So lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of lean protein, lots of good healthy fats. I do eat gluten, but I minimize it. So I don't particularly eat a lot of bread or pastas or anything like that. That's just not things that I like, but I like cereal. My husband and I have pizza night every Friday night, or we haven't in a while, but we are tomorrow night. We had quiche tonight, so yeah, there's gluten and things like that. I know it doesn't feel great for my stomach, so I try to avoid it, but at the same time, I'm not going to like completely avoid it either, because I know that I don't have an allergy to it. Sometimes I feel great, sometimes I don't, so it just kind of depends. But whole foods, fruits and vegetables, lots and lots of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, chicken, fish, turkey, I'm trying to think, lean ground beef, any kind of meat is usually pretty good. Eggs. I like cheese. That's my source of protein that I love. I'd say I'm a pescatarian, but then somebody told me like, that means that I eat heads. And I don't know. I've always been told that it's pescatarian, but until like last week, but whatever. I eat fish. That's it. I don't eat anything else. I eat eggs. I should say that. I eat eggs, dairy, and fish. Yogurt. I love Greek yogurt for protein. I eat a lot of nuts and nut butters, so I have trail mix or cashews pretty much every day. And then healthy fats like avocados, oils. Oh my gosh, somebody told me another one. Nuts are really good ones. Nut butters are good ones too. So things like that are going to be really good mixed with that carb cycling and intermittent fasting. And if you don't know much about that, what carb cycling and intermittent fasting are. Carb cycling, you are going to rotate days of lower carbs, mix in with normal regular carb days. So for example, Monday for me is a rest day. That is typically a low carb day for me. So, and we'll get into the fasting in just a minute, but I try to keep my grams of carbs under 50 net grams. That's my total grams of carbohydrates minus my fiber in there. So my net carbs is under 50 grams of carbohydrates. So I might do that one day. Then the next day I'm going to have a regular calorie day. So I'm going to eat same amount of calories that I did on my low carb day, but on my regular calorie day, I am not going to be doing anything different with my carbohydrates. I'm going to eat a regular carbohydrate diet. So I think, somebody's going to have to remind me. I think it's about 50% carbohydrates that day, 20% protein, 30% fat, or something like that. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Then the other thing that I do mixed in with that, so I do low carb days probably 2 days a week. Maybe on a good week I do it 3. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling and how my workouts look as well. I never do carb cycling on a day where I have a hard workout, just because it's hard for me to recover when I don't have those carbohydrates. Your body needs those carbohydrates to help you recover from those runs. But typically I do my low carb days either on a rest day or on a day where I'm just doing strength training or on an easy run day. The other thing that I add in is intermittent fasting. So, and this is going to sound crazy, but it's a time of not eating. So you're actually intentionally fasting instead of eating every 3 hours like we've been taught for years and years and years to come. And that's what I've been taught, and I had practiced it for a long time, and while it worked for me, I started practicing intermittent fasting, and it seems to work a little bit better as far as my training. And the reason intermittent fasting works really well for runners... Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. I have problems with headaches. I asked my neurologist, and she said I get exercise headaches, so now I take ibuprofen before my long runs, and along with drinking water. That's good. I'm allergic to ibuprofen, so I can't do that. But I don't usually get headaches on my long runs. Mine's just my neck. But intermittent fasting, the reason that you would do it is because your body needs that chance to recover, and it can only do 2 things at a time. It can go through digestion, but if it's focused on digestion, it's not focused on rebuilding your muscle cells or rebuilding cells in general. And so if we are eating every 3 hours, our body is constantly digesting, and it's not getting that chance to actually recover like we want it to. So having that time of fasting for a longer period of time than, say, from, when's the last time I ate? I'm trying to think. 7:15, I had a snack. So 7:15, and then I'm going to eat again at 6:30 in the morning. So that's not even 12 hours where my body is having that chance to recover. Now, if I push that time of fasting back a little bit farther, where I'm going from 7:15, 7:30 to where I usually break my fast is 11:30, my body is getting all of that time to actually focus on recovering and rebuilding my muscle cells or rebuilding my cells in general. And so I don't want my body to always be constantly focusing on digestion, which is good. I need digestion, but I'll talk about that in a second, Christy. But I don't necessarily need to be eating every 3 hours. So yes, there are days where I eat regular that I don't always fast. It's intermittent, so I'm not always fasting. Like yesterday, I had a hard run. I did a fartlek run that was about 5 miles, which is actually on the low end of my speed workout days. So my fartlek run, I did 5 miles, and then those days I'm absolutely starving after. Like, I will not make it the rest of the day. Like, I will pass out. I won't make it the rest of the day if I don't eat something after my run. Okay, so it's not right after my run. I shower and get ready, and then once I get in my car, I drink my smoothie. So those days, yes, absolutely, I will have something. It is not an everyday thing. My long runs, yes, absolutely. I'm eating breakfast right after. So long runs and hard days, those are the days that I am eating regular calories. My easy run days, I don't feel that same way, and I go a little bit longer and force my body into that fasting state to help with the recovery and help me recover faster. And I feel like it's really worked. Like right now, my legs are dead. I'm not really sure why. I think most of it is stress. But at the same time, like I've been doing this for a year now, and it's worked really well for me, and I've seen my times drop, and it's helped me get leaner. Now, back on the how do you not pass out? I get dizzy sometimes if I do not eat for a while. I am someone who has suffered from hypoglycemia. You can ask my husband. I will get hangry. I am not a pleasant person to be around if I get hungry. I will tell you that since I have started doing this, I don't feel that way anymore. I can go a lot longer without eating and not get into that state where I want to like rip off somebody's head and eat it because I'm so hungry or pass out. I have low blood pressure, and so if I stand up too quickly, I pass out. That has gone away. But I don't have the same issues that I had in the past. Like today I fasted until 11:30. I had a smoothie and some trail mix, and then I wasn't hungry, so I didn't eat. And then I had my normal dinner, and probably after we get off here, I know it's almost 9:30 and I probably need to hop off soon. I'm probably going to have something else to eat, and then I'm going to fast again until 11:30. So I'm still getting 14 hours of fasting. So yes, absolutely, you might feel that way, and it takes some time. And you can ask some of the girls who just practice doing a 24-hour fast in my program that it's hard. It's really hard. And I don't know if Kelly is on here at all. I know she was going to try to hop on live because she started to do the intermittent fasting. It's amazing how much better you feel. So I will admit it is not for everyone, and it takes a lot of hard work and practice to get used to it. And I don't do a 24-hour fast anymore because it did not work for me. But lengthening that period of time that you're going without eating and letting your body not digest and actually repair your cells is better. Do you do stretching before and after runs? Not good at getting into a routine of this. I don't. First of all, static stretching where you're holding a stretch for like 20 to 30 seconds. Absolutely do not do that before a run because that totally negates what you're trying to do. If you do some stretching before a run, you want to do some dynamic stretches. So actually going through that range of motion in your muscles, which I do have a warm-up routine for my VIP runners that they get that shows them those exercises to go through before a run. But a lot of times, if it's an easy run, I don't do a stretching warm-up before. I just go into my run and it's an easy run, so it's not that big of a deal. But if I do a like tempo run or a speed workout, I'll do a mile warm up, I'll do my dynamic in between, and then I'll go into my actual speed workout and then cool down with a mile. As for stretching after, I'm terrible at getting into a routine of it. I'm trying. That's one of my goals this summer is to actually get some sort of stretching routine down that doesn't take me more than 5 minutes because a lot of times it's just time based that I don't do it. And I just hate doing it. So I will admit that I struggle with that a lot. But yeah, I think it's important to stretch after because it's really good for muscle recovery. That is me when I'm hungry. Do not get in my way. Yes. Kristen, have you tried the fasting? I know that you've been in my programs. I know we had it this week, but did you actually try to do your fasting? You can respond. I'm going to respond to some other ones. What do you eat before a long run? I honestly don't eat anything. I do fasted long runs, so I don't eat anything before my long runs. But keep in mind, my long runs are not... My long runs are 8 to 10 miles. So I'm barely running over an hour. Barely over an hour and a half, I should say. I'm not even running an hour and a half. So I don't necessarily need anything. As I get into over an hour, I start adding a sports drink in every 3 miles. But if it's not over an hour, I do nothing. And then I'll eat after. So you don't necessarily have to. But if you need something, say you run in the afternoon, absolutely, I'm not going to make you like fast until that time. But if you need something, I suggest like banana and peanut butter, which is what I've used in the past. Luna bars are really good. Not Luna bars, Lara bars are really good. Dates were what I used during marathon training. And I can tell you, I will not eat a date anymore. And it's been 7 years since I ran Chicago Marathon. So something that is high carb, not a lot of protein, not a lot of fat either. So peanut butter is like kind of on the, I don't know, just don't put a lot on there. But bananas are great, bagels are great, bread's great. You know, those sorts of things are all really good for pre-workout thing. I need BB coffee fills me up until lunchtime. Yes, yeah. Oh, bulletproof coffee. Yeah. I've tried that on some of my like fasting days that are low carb days, and I really like it. I need to do bulletproof coffee more, but I think we've talked about this. I just don't have the right stuff. Like I don't use the organic butter or anything, which I shop at Aldi, so I should. I tried, yes, I need to plan out some of the meals for next week to really get more into it. But I did do the fasting for sure, but the low carb. The fasting's not the struggle for me. For me, it's the low carb days too. So maybe we can like figure out something. I will tell you, Kelly and I are trying to come up with a good, like, I don't want to say a meal plan, but a good recipe book for my Elite Running Academy that obviously my VIPs will get as well in the resources section on Final Surge. So you'll get that, but we're working on it. So hopefully we can have some more low carb ideas. I teach dynamic stretching before running for the kids I coach, but forget to do myself time to practice what I preach. That's me. I know. I get it. I totally get it. So anyway, any other questions before I wrap up? You can just leave them in the comments, but, I do want to tell you that I'm so thankful to have all of you in here, and I hope that you got a ton out of this. I've loved chatting with you for the past hour. If you know me, like, I'm not a talker at all. So for the fact that I've been talking, like, to literally, I'm looking at myself in a thing and just reading comments, like, that's crazy for me to be talking this long. Thanks for the like. I appreciate it. Can you post Kelly's Facebook page, please? I was meant to ask a while ago. Kelly Tobin, my assistant. I absolutely can. For her, I'm trying to think. For her accountability group. Let me know, because I'll add you to it, Nicole. I don't know. Add me as a friend, because I'll add you to it, and I'll have Kelly post it in here too. She probably should have anyway. But I'll let you know for sure. So anyway, diet stuff. Yes. I think I know what you're talking about, but message me, because I'm not positive. But yeah, Nicole, message me and I'll make sure that you're added into that. Because I think I know what you're talking about. Good stuff. Thanks. Oh, thanks. And I'll make sure that I add you to that. But anyway, if you have questions, please feel free to post things in this group. We have a ton of great people in here who have countless resources. I know that I'm not an expert on everything, but this is what I love, and I love helping people, and I love learning. So if I don't know something, I'm going to ask the right people. Like, I don't think she's in here right now. But Katie Heddleston is in this group, and she's a registered dietitian. She's a great person to ask nutrition questions from, and she's also a running coach. Jasmine Nemick is in this group. She's a running coach. She's my running coach. Oh no, my connection's weak. Hopefully you can still hear and see me. Who else in here? Mindy Adkins, she's in here. She's also a running coach, and she is going through... or she just got certified as a running coach. So there's a lot of great resources in here and people to bounce questions off of. So feel free to ask questions. That's why I started this group, is because I hated the one-sided interaction on Instagram and Facebook. I wanted something where it could be multiple interactions with people, that you could ask questions and get lots of responses, and not just like one person responding and have to ask the questions of 50 other people who are runners. So this is just a great way for you to get other interaction with other people. But I also wanted to let you guys know, hopefully I'm not going to be able to get through this in 2 minutes, but the cart is open for the Elite Running Academy. So if you are looking for that structured training plan, if you are needing some accountability, if you have no idea how to put strength training in, or you have no idea how to put a plan together that is going to work and make you faster, I highly suggest Elite Running Academy. It's going to give you a plan. It's going to give you strength training that you need. We go through the nutrition stuff. So if you struggled with, if you are going through, like, listening to this and going through, I don't understand this intermittent fasting thing, but I'm interested in it. How would I incorporate that into a running plan, or carb cycling? How would I incorporate that into a running plan? I highly suggest Elite Running Academy. I'm going to give you a structured training plan. It's got all of the nutrition outlined for you. We're working on designing something that gives you more ideas of what to eat on a regular basis, but it does come with a foods list for you to follow. So you'll have at least ideas of what to eat on a low carb day, on a regular carb day. What are good combinations of things that are going to get you what you need, so you at least have an idea with that and know exactly what you need to do on each day. So you're going to have Monday, you're going to have an easy run, you're going to have a strength training workout, and it's going to be a regular calorie day or a low carb day or whatever it is. You're going to know exactly what you need to do. You are going to have access to a private group, and you're going to have me as your coach. I hop on there live once a week for something similar to this, so you can ask your questions. As I see questions come up, I answer them as we go, but it's also an opportunity for you to kind of have a coach and have a little bit more personal connection. I know a lot of the girls who have commented on here, I've worked with in the past in that group, and we have a great, it's a great opportunity for you to get some ideas as far as your training goes, to know what the next step is. You'll get some motivation, and if you're struggling with motivation, it's going to help you fall in love with running again. And I know a lot of my runners have said that in the past. And for the next 24 hours, so until, and I did this wrong, until 3:30 tomorrow, I am also going to be throwing in a one-on-one implementation call. So what this is going to entail, it's going to be different than a goal setting call, which I know a lot of people are hopping on with me in the next couple of weeks. But my implementation call, if you join the Elite Running Academy by tomorrow afternoon, and I might extend it a little bit just because I'm feeling a little bit nicer, because sixth graders are crazy and they made me change my time. But the implementation call is going to take what you're doing currently, looking at the Elite Running Academy, and we're going to marry the two. So if you are training for something currently and you're like, but I need all this other stuff, how do I get this into this? We're going to walk through it together. So it's going to be like a 30 to 45 minute call where we're actually going to walk through your training, and I will show you where to implement it and how to implement it. So it'll be an implementation call so that you can have access to that. But I'm only offering that for the next day. So until tomorrow afternoon, that you can, if you join the program, you can get that implementation call so you can see how to fit everything in. So it'll basically be a 45-minute coaching call to really outline exactly what you need to do in order to make progress in your training. So even if you don't have a training plan, if you're like, I absolutely need to, I want to PR, I need to PR, how do I do that? I'm going to give you like a 3-week training plan that's going to at least get you closer to that. All right. So I'm offering that one-on-one implementation call for the next 24 hours if you join in the next 24 hours. So if you have questions, let me know. Again, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed the past couple weeks and, or the past couple days. And if you have questions, feel free to ask anyone in the group. Just post it in here. Post your workouts. I post mine in there every single day I work out. So we love seeing workouts. We love really encouraging each other and being a support system for other runners and connecting with other runners. So I hope you guys have a great night or day wherever you are located in the country or the world, because I know we have some New Zealand and Australian friends in here. But I hope you have a great one. Let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you later. Bye.